Please, God, if there's a help, please be merciful to me. Yes, I did it! There is no God in your face!
Would you want Rick Sanchez to be your grandfather? On one hand, he'd take you on an adventure for 20 minutes, unless, of course, he'd rather you have another grandchild. But, on the other hand, he's clearly not the nicest person. So, what's wrong with him? And does Rick have any feelings at all? Let's find out. Rick comes across as both crazy and brilliant. A skeptic, cynic, and pessimist, he is a master of sarcasm and despises all living things. The series begins with Rick returning to his daughter Beth after a long absence. He ends up living with her family, a loser son-in-law and 2 grandchildren, Summer and Morty. Rick immediately establishes his own rules in the house and proclaims himself head of the family. Beth, who apparently occupied this position before him, obediently makes concessions for fear that he will leave her again. Rick doesn't like spending time with his family. The only time we see all the characters together is at the dinner table. The rest of the time he locks himself in the garage and works on his inventions. The only family member Rick has any interest in is Morty. But is he really important to his grandfather? And can Rick feel affection for anyone? At the beginning of the series, Morty is a shy and complex schoolboy whom no one notices. Only next to his grandfather can he feel significant. For Rick, Morty is not only a grandson but also a partner. No adventure is without him. He is almost indispensable, despite his constant complaints and fears, for which Rick often criticizes him. Sometimes they even have to erase Morty's memory so he doesn't get hurt. Morty loves his grandfather's attention. He feels special with him. These adventures foster courage and independence in him. In the last few seasons, we see Morty drifting away from Rick, and his place is partially taken by Summer. Despite this, Rick hopes to the last that Morty stays by his side. After all, this may be the only person he feels sympathy and affection for. But there's more to it than that. Everyone who has to deal with Rick is eager to earn his praise, from grandchildren arguing over who he loves more to entire planets. It's as if Rick attracts those who are insecure to him. He's cold-blooded. You don't expect any declarations of love or displays of affection from him. He's calculating, and he says he doesn't believe in love. Given that Rick has no particular tenderness or affection for people, it's no wonder he disposes of other people's lives so easily. Even erasing Morty's memory violates his personal boundaries, treating his grandson as an object rather than a person. Rick also shamelessly cloned his daughter, and he didn't care which of the 2 Beths was the real one, as long as each fulfilled its function. Yes, he did it out of concern, but it's obvious he has no special affection for her. Morty isn't the only one in the multiverse, and he was very upset when he found out. Rick only said, "There are no irreplaceables," and acts accordingly. When he realizes that his universe can't be fixed anymore, he simply relocates with Morty to another one where the Rick and Morty here died, and goes on to live with the new Beth, Jerry, and Summer. You'd think the original Morty is important to him, but it's more likely that they just hit it off and Rick doesn't want to lose a reliable, dependable partner. When Morty went through a bright puberty, he became a nuisance in the adventures. Rick replaced him with Summer. All of this suggests that Rick has a low empathy level, and his emotional intelligence leaves a lot to be desired. He thinks of himself first and foremost, and uses those around him to achieve his own goals. Despite the infinite number of Ricks in the universe, our Rick thinks he is the most right. To be honest, they all do. Rick is a brilliant scientist. He knows he's unique and constantly emphasizes this by humiliating those around him. The president, The scientists, the other Rickies, they're all just stupid people to him. If anyone doubts his greatness, Rick will prove him wrong. Those closest to him know this trait and manipulate him. Remember when Morty forced him to create a device simply by questioning his genius. Rick is unemotional, devoid of empathy. He manipulates and uses people. He doesn't care about intimacy. He cares about admiration. He demands recognition of his exceptionalism and does not tolerate any other attitude. This all points to Rick being a narcissist. He has narcissistic personality disorder. What does that mean? Personality is a complex structure formed from the innate characteristics of the nervous system and environmental influences. Dependent on these factors, personality develops either within the normal range or in a pathological form. Pathological personality is, for example, a person with a chronic disorder. There are more than 10 such disorders in total, and Rick's is a narcissistic one. His traits are sharpened, pronounced. His cruelty and lack of empathy allow him to kill and use Morty without regret, regardless of the consequences for the boy's psyche. The main symptom of a narcissist: unstable, ambivalent self-esteem. In society, Rick does not show weakness. He is constantly proving his superiority. Like all narcissists, he rejects shame and fear, considering them a sign of weakness. But it is these feelings that are at the core of a narcissist's personality. Rick is plagued by constant anxiety. He worries about what others will think of him. His self-esteem fluctuates from "I'm brilliant" to "I'm nothing." In public, he plays the role of a self-assured person, but in private, he falls into apathy and self-abuse. This is the core of the narcissistic personality. We don't know much about Rick's past and his parents, but we do know what kind of parenting style can lead to narcissism. As a child, the future narcissist is constantly evaluated, held up as an example to others, and praised only for his successes. His desires are not important. It is important to please his parents. If the mother wants the child to become a scientist, she appreciates grades in physics, and his talent for drawing ignores. This is how the false self appears, a facade created for the sake of love and praise. Inside, doubt and the feeling of "I'm not good enough" remain. Constant comparisons form a shame that stays with the person for life. We can now speculate what kind of childhood Rick had and how his narcissism was formed. In his case, it is important to be determined and confident, but the driving force should not be envy and emptiness. Rick suffers from a lack of loved ones and often finds that even his own family members take advantage of him. He fills the emptiness with alcohol, which gives the illusion of happiness and temporarily hides internal problems. Do you like Rick Sanchez? Would you go on a 20-minute adventure with him? Share your opinions in the comments.